Good day, students. So, our topic for today is about cultural studies and popular culture. First, we are going to define what is cultural studies, and then we will learn the connection between the culture and cultural studies, and of course, the connection between culture and ideology. So, cultural studies as a cohesive, unified academic subject with distinct substantive issues, concepts, and methods that distinguish it from other disciplines continues to be difficult to define. Cultural studies has always been a multidisciplinary or post-disciplinary discipline of study that blurs the lines between itself and other subjects. Cultural studies is an interdisciplinary field that studies how social structures shape culture. It began in the 1950s in the United Kingdom and quickly extended throughout the world, particularly to the United States and Australia. Cultural studies is an interdisciplinary field in which perspectives from different disciplines can be selectively drawn on to examine the relations of culture and power. As what Bennett said, cultural studies is concerned with all those practices, institutions, and systems of classification through which there are inculcated in a population particular values, beliefs, competences, routines of life, and habitual forms of conduct. Meanwhile, Hall contended that cultural studies has a variety of discourses and histories. It is a whole set of formations. It has its own distinct conjunctures and historical moments. It included a wide range of work and has always a series of unstable formations. It had many trajectories and many people had and have different theoretical positions, all of which were in contention. In other words, cultural studies provide a forum for academic discourses that draw on anthropology, history, literary studies, philosophy, political economics, and sociology to develop concepts and arguments. Now, let us know the relationship between culture and cultural studies. So, cultural studies would not warrant its name without a focus on culture. According to Hall, culture is concerned with shared social meanings or the numerous ways in which we make sense of the world. Meanwhile, on the other hand, do not just appear out there. They are created by signs, most notably those of language. That is, culture means the actual grounded terrain of practices, representations, languages, and customs of any specific society. All sorts of culture are recognized in cultural studies, albeit most studies have focused on the popular. So culture is regarded as a meaning-making entity. It's about how humans interact with nature, and it's about the shared meanings that people develop and encounter in their daily lives. Furthermore, humans make meaning from the text they encounter. Cultures emerge from the creation, circulation, and consumption of meanings in this manner. As a result, sharing a culture means interpreting the world in recognizably similar ways according to story. So cultural studies recognize the cultural meanings are negotiated, thus that they might signify various things in different cultures. The foundation of cultural studies is this negotiation between cultures and the function of power. So now let's do this activity. Based on our last and present lesson, write a word or group of words in each box that you can relate with the word that you can see in the picture. Now, as you have learned in the previous lesson, we defined culture as a system of symbolic and expressive structures that a particular group of people developed and utilized to enhance solidarity, understanding, and transmission of knowledge. Another essential term in popular culture involves ideology. Just like culture, the term ideology also has competing definitions. Ideology, just like the term culture, is considered as a highly flexible concept. To some, ideology is dogmatic, while to others it carries connotations of political sophistication. To some, it refers to dominant modes of thought, and to others, it refers primarily to those most alienated by the status quo. To some, it is based in the concrete interests of a social class, while to others, it is characterized by an absence of economic self-interest. So let us try to examine the following meanings of ideology and try to understand each. First, we have ideology as a systematic body of ideas articulated by a specific group of people. Consider the various political parties in the country. Why do you believe certain arguments arise when making decisions affecting the welfare of Filipino citizens? Now, let's have another competing definition of ideology. So this time we have ideology as a set of guiding political principles for a society and or its economy. So in general, an ideology is a practical organizing principle rather than a belief system or a way of thinking. Ideologies serve as the guiding principles for governing a society. For instance, think about the ideology of capitalism. It emphasizes the freedom to start business, trade goods, and own the means of production privately. And capitalism produces excellent market efficiencies but also excessive exploitation of the rich over the poor. Because of government intervention in the market to protect consumers and curb capitalism's excesses, no society is purely capitalist. So other forms of these ideologies include agrarianism, authoritarianism, democracy, environmentalism, globalism, among others. Now let us have ideology as being understood as false consciousness. So this means that the belief in the system stems from cultural messages that conceal and obscure the reality of exploitation. For instance, we may enjoy having a variety of digital communication devices such as smartphones, tablets, or iPods. The general consensus is that these digital devices are environmentally friendly. This, however, is far from the case. These devices contain a variety of hazardous materials, including chromium, mercury, and cadmium. In this case, ideology obscures the wasteful and hazardous nature of digital gadgets, as well as the devastating health effects of hazardous materials on the world's poor. So lastly, we have ideology as a set of practices. So this time, ideology is defined as a social mechanism that generates subject positions or a place in the social environment where we live our lives. A teacher, for example, makes sense of their current social situation by visualizing how it links to the larger social world. In other words, Louis Althusser refers to the fact that certain rituals and conventions have the effect of attaching us to the social order, which is distinguished by massive wealth, possession, and power inequalities. Think of this. For example, if you live a wealthy lifestyle, your daily habits will be very different from those of the poor. In what ways do you believe these societal difference will result in inequalities? Okay, and for the lesson 3, we are going to look at the historical perspective of Philippine popular culture. So kindly read the introduction by Gary C. Devils from the book Kritikal na Espasyo ng Kulturang Popular. So you can refer to our module for the excerpt. So that will be all for today. Thank you so much and see you.